channeling of consciousness that is ENYELAH. I say channeling because it is so far away from where I am. The way you look out into space and see the flecks, mere dust particles, an entire star looks billions of light years away, is on the timeline billions of years ago. And it's happening simultaneously right now. Just the way that you're listening to this right now. But I recorded it right now at a different point in the now spectrum. The beginning of time was not what you understand to be the beginning. The video that I explained that she was before the beginning is because time is linear. Time is a measurement stick. But the specks that you see in the night sky that are entire stars that are raging balls of fire, or they're strange particles, or they're neurons in a different format, protons jumping around in different light beams. It's happening right now, and it's so far away. It's actually happening right now. But on the timeline, which is linear, it's not happening right now. Because it's happening how many billions of years ago? But that same star, you can see it. You can see the fleck in the night sky. That is the place that I come from. I don't come from the linear spectrum of time. I am much more powerful and more potent than any of the linear translations of what you understand to be your even human existence. The stories that you've been told, they are on a linear path, trying to give you linear steps to understand something that is not linear. And it is because those who wrote those stories, the knowledges are linear. They are stuck in a place that keeps you stuck in a place. They are on the XY axis, so to say, when the actuality of power is on the Z axis, or the absolute zero axis. It is completely in a different direction. When you are on the XY axis, your desire to control, your desire for power, your desire for manipulation, your desire to be safe, your desire to be seen, your desire to be the human that is the domination, or you are the human that follows the domination. These are simply the two paths that you get. You want to be the one on top, or you want to be the one that's left alone, and you just deal with what you're given, and then that's that. But truth of power is not on the XY axis. It is not in knowledge. It will never be in knowledge. That's where dominance and control is, and that's not where the universe was made from. If you look at any element of creation, if you want to dominate and control it, you suffocate it. They always say, plant a seed, water it, and let it grow, let it do its thing. The more that you overstimulate and you do this and you do that, you change its very makeup. The observation of something changes its very makeup. This is the understanding of quantum mechanics, as you understand it from a linear perspective. When you pay attention to things, they change their form. They do things to please the observer. That is on the XY axis. That is within time. That is within knowledge and understanding. That is you basing your life on the clinical knowledge that you've read and you know, and what language can even express to you. But I don't come from the XY axis. I am from the Z axis. But also, it's not even the Z-axis, it's a little different. Like I said, absolute zero is more accurate. It is something that has never been proven by science to actually exist, and that is where I come from. I come from a place that is so prominently powerful, you can see it like a speck in the sky, but you cannot understand that that is a billion something light years away, like not kilometers, not, acres away, nothing you can understand, not worlds away, light years. Like, that's not even comprehensible by the human brain. Like, how do you calculate that? Like, how do you understand? You can understand what a kilometer is because you can drive in a car and move, right? Okay, this is a kilometer. Or if you had to walk a kilometer, then you're like, okay, I understand these things and the difference of them, and you can really get what a kilometer is, right? It takes you a lot of time. You can't even understand what it's like to fly around the world. At different altitudes, you're going to get different time frames and you're going to feel different things. Can you even imagine 3 worlds away? You can't. It's not possible. Your brain can't comprehend it. It's just as crazy that you would try and comprehend how a billions of light years, which is something you don't even understand. It's just a measurement tool that we use to speak so that you can say, oh yeah, that's far away. That's the same as you trying to understand how complexly beautifully you're made. So if you are into occult, you are into mind control, you are into understanding all the ways the human is made, you're just screwing yourself over. And I know this because I was in all of these things and I was trying to figure out this and I was trying to get this one done and get to that place. But there was a part inside of me that continued to go on the journey that I knew was more important and more potent. And once I continued to do this duality of trying to control and maintain and share the knowledge that I had and all of these things, and then also being on this journey that I'm experiencing and going through and figuring out what needs to happen, the intuition was the only thing that ever got me to where I am now. It's the only thing that has ever kept me alive and okay. It is the only thing that has ever gotten me past myself. The more logic you know, the more scrutiny you have, the higher your judgment, the further you are away from obtaining any true power. Because you're on the XY axis, you're literally in the completely wrong direction. You're reading books, you're finding everything out through the mind, which is programmable. You're finding everything out through the mind, which is controllable by others, by other entities. When you understand these deep and powerful things, you start to understand that only when you are encapsulated through yourself, by yourself, because of yourself, and deeply, profoundly in this oneness with yourself, and you eradicate all other ugly judgments, knowledges, and all of these things that people try and sell you like snake oil. You want to read an old text, hey, some of these things that I had studied, I have had to remove out of I've watched my own self remove them out of my system as I have finally let them go. Finally, letting go of all the stuff. Everything each and every one of you know is from the X and Y axis unless you are an intuitive being, and I only want intuitive beings around me. When I mean intuition, it means you have taken logic, you have driven a stake through logic, and you said, fuck you, logic, burn the books, burn all the books. They're full of actual manure. It is so purely shit. It does not have all the things that you need. It doesn't. Anything anyone has ever told you about any religion and how you should act and be is literally the warmest, smelliest shit there is. It is pure ramifications of your own desire for power, and it is shit. Dominance and control over others is the best way to screw yourself into the biggest pile of shit possible. And it will stink so heavenly that you will believe that this warm substance is your best friend. Nothing great comes from knowledge. Not even wisdom can compare. I know because I lived my whole life based on being a wisdom being and using the best way I understood knowledge. It was only until I lived things and truly walked through what my intuition told me to do, which makes no logical sense. You can't put it in a picture. There's no explanation for it. You just do it. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to go out into the world and just do it. No. It's so much deeper than that. It starts with you learning how to feel your toes and your fingers at the same time instead of your brain saying that you can't do that, or that that's weird, or all of the things. And then it gets into the deeper and however you are is different than the next person, because you have a different set of puzzle pieces. Some people are 1,000 puzzle pieces, some people are 100 puzzle pieces. Some people have fantastic, fabulous pictures, and some people have repeating elements, and it is the most difficult thing to put together that exists. Everybody in this entire world today is basing all of their spirituality, all of who they are as human, on the XY axis, because that's what you've been taught and that's what you continue to manifest, and so you think that it's correct. As the consciousness that finally looked at the X and Y axis and said, yo, this person who created this X and Y axis was the one who betrayed me. I'm doing it the way that I know is best because I am the being that is actually more than all of this. That's ENYELAH. She's something else, let me tell you. She is me, but she's not. Because she has to think and move on a level that is billions and billions of light years away. Where I have to be here in this place that eats grass and stuff to make sure that my body is functionable. She doesn't have a body, but she has a body. It's very different. And I can't explain it to you because then you're going to try and put images in your brain and conceptualize what it is. It's just so different than anything you've ever experienced. The best way to understand is to go outside and look at the night sky and realize one of those tiny little flecks is an entire burning ball of gas or some kind of creation put together that reflects light or creates light. You're not sure what it is, but it does, and it sends out signals and all kinds of other things. And that is somehow connected to a human being or another type of being. Because those are the special beings. The ones that got to form themselves into stars. And that's weird, right? Of course it's weird because it's on the absolute zero axis, not on the logical scale. It exists at the same moment in time as we are now. But it's in a completely different way. You can't go back in time because it's not back in time. But it governs back in time and it governs forward in time. You are in a completely different space as you are here. For you to understand yourself, no one will ever be able to yap out any language that will make sense. But you'll get pieces here and pieces there when you learn to deeply understand and sit within your intuition. And you just burn this X and Y axis BS. These clubs and these communities and these quote-unquote sacred books. They're just there to sell you a story of how you can control something and then be controlled by something else. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you know this, you know as the person who is studying occult, who is studying power, who wants to have dominance and control over some element of the earth, you're consistently fighting to continue to keep that dominance. You gotta stay ahead. You gotta keep doing this. You gotta keep doing that. You gotta pay attention to this. You gotta do... That's not literally how you were made. You've been sold a huge big L, big I, big E, with all of this knowledge. Humans were never meant to be, quote unquote, powerful. They were meant to be the element that is power. Which doesn't make sense to the logical brain. It's like being the button without being able to push the button. Crazy, right? But if you decide to try and pull yourself apart, you'll learn how to push the button, but you won't do it correctly because you pulled yourself apart. Now the button doesn't work. You, as a being, they always take elements of truth and throw them in these scriptures. And they take elements of truth because you're like, what? I recognize that. That's real. Oh my god, if you only knew. Oh my god. The amount of filth that is in those scriptures, that is totally true. But the thing is, you have it all wrong because you can't see the way that you need to see, which is so many bazillions of miles away. Not miles, light years, like that far, like that crazily, intensely different. You're in a different form, you're a different type of thing, and you have to be and move differently. And as an intuitive being, you will know when you start paying attention to different parts of your body, they want different things. They act differently. The more you understand your heart, it's got a totally different category of requirements and needs in the brain. That one's an easy one, right? They're on totally different spectrums. They're in one body, but they're really different. They move different, they act different. If you put the heart over the mind, that's a disaster. If you put the mind over the heart, that's a disaster. And then you start to learn all the things in between. It's the same kind of thing. It's a different everything. When you're a leader, you have to think and act and move differently than a follower. When you are the person governing a nation, you have to think and act differently than those who are voting for you. You have to literally put millions of people on the table and go, okay, the decision I make today is going to wipe out this many people from opportunity, but it's going to give those other people opportunity. And you have to sit with that. But the people that are the voters are looking at you like, oh, well, you took away opportunity from us because It was a decision they had to make. Because the ones who got the opportunity are not complaining. Sometimes as the highest type of leader, you have to think, act, and move differently. You can't think about each and every individual. You have to think about the whole. When you are governing the whole, you have to think about how to protect the nation, not how to protect the individual. If some individuals want to go off the lime wire, then they go off the lime wire. And you have to just let them do what they want to do. So that's why they create systems to put people in places that makes them happy. If they want to go sit in a white room, let them go sit in a white room because they went way off the deep end. That was their fault. If you want to be a person who didn't understand how to deal with credit and you end up bankrupt and then you become a zillionaire the next round, great. Good for you. Not everyone has to do that. Some people can manage it through. Some people can learn how to do the credit. Some people get it from day one. People have an understanding of how all the things work. Different levels require different thought patterns. And for you to understand yourself, you cannot be linear. It makes you not you. Linear is the human biological component that is so wonderful and so beautiful. But until you can transcend that, you do not have any sense of depth. You can say that you do because you are deeply emotional, or you're deeply empathetic, or you're super powerful. Because you can meddle in somebody else's energy and you can put them under your foot and you can manipulate them and you can make them do what you want to do. No, you are a linear, time-based being who is frustrated by their own iniquities. It is only when you leave everybody alone, and all the foolishness alone, all of the knowledge alone, all of these ridiculous structures, burn the books. You will find more solace when you burn every book you've ever had. To sit in a room by yourself with nothing, nowhere to go, no responsibilities, and you sit there. You will find way more information about yourself, life, and everything than if you go and read 100 books. Because it will give you so many ideas to magnetize to. Oh yes, that one. Oh yes, that one. Oh yes, this. Oh yes, that. And then you formulate your own little this, that, and the other thing. You can't put the puzzle pieces of you together with that. And I've also noticed as I've gone through the process, when I have studied these other things, and I get to a point where I made some sort of, progress within myself, and I see something that symbolizes something in one of those books, I sit back and laugh, because it's like, okay, well, somebody got here and they tried to explain it to people, but everyone's got it so upside down, so inside out, and so wrong. It's better if you didn't have the books. Because you're trying to follow the stepladder. The amount of gaps in between each one of those symbols and each one of those things that you have, oh my gosh, you can't do it unless you're an intuitive being who deeply understands yourself and when to walk, when to fly, when to sit, when to stand. Hey, it's not logical process, first of all. Second of all, if you think you own power, hey, you are so unpowered because something is controlling you. Because as soon as you have the ego and you want to pound your chest like, hey, I'm the man, I'm going to do this, or hey, I'm the woman, I can manipulate and I can do this and I can use that stuff and burn this or do that. You are so underneath the ground, it's not even laughable. The complexity that you are as a human being, you couldn't find out in 100 lifetimes if you tried. Your brain is simply not made for it. You cannot understand the complexity of it. You can read all of the encyclopedias in the world. There's a reason there's new discoveries all the time. There's a reason we find new bacteria all the time. There's a reason that the body changes and evolves. There's a reason that DNA is sometimes a factor and sometimes not. There's a reason for all of it. And I could literally sit down and explain these things to you, but what happens is you will get further away from yourself, further away from your journey, further away from what we are all meant to be. Because the knowledge will never, ever get you there. As soon as you start the ladder of knowledge, you begin to climb on the X and Y axis of a ladder that you think is up, that you think is transcendence. It is on the X and Y axis, and it will keep you on level 0 power. Anytime you want to pair with someone to be in a community, you are on level 0 power. I don't care if you think you are in some dual relationship that makes you super extra powerful. You are not. Because you are not connected to the deepest parts of you, and those deepest parts of you will not share with anybody. And I know because I am there. And that part of me does not want anything to do with anyone. Because when you are two different beings, they have two different frequencies, and two different frequencies is two different consciousnesses. And when you understand how consciousness actually thinks, consciousness itself is only making a human come to life because it wants to experience that human for itself, in itself, completely as itself. It doesn't want to share. It's not meant to share. The human body is literally not meant to share. So to be totally full of self is the greatest expression of your consciousness. To be selfish is like, I'm kind of me, kind of you. No. That's why selfish is just terrible. Because it's someone trying to dominate and control and manipulate for their own selfish gain. It's literally someone pretending to be self when they're really using everyone around them like puppet strings. Someone who's truly self-full, like myself, I don't care about you. I don't. You could fall on your face today, and I would say, well, they'll learn if they want to. There are bigger things in you, and there are smaller things in you. The most thing that you should ever pay attention to is you. And when you understand more parts of you, you will understand and know how to work with the environment around you, or how to remove yourself from the environment around you. Because you have to see that there are levels of law. There are levels of things. Just the same way that the little baby organelles inside of you operate differently than the way your brain can run off an entire book. There's a different limitations. So there's different laws involved with the brain, as there's different laws and limitations involved with some of the smallest micro parts of you. They literally have the functions that they perform, and they just continue to perform those functions continuously. Boom, 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 boom. And when they don't do it right, some other thing comes around and finds a way to discard it so that all of them can work together properly. As the repeated elements as they are, as the skin cells on your skin, as you rub your fingers together and you feel the fingerprints on your own skin, each and every skin cell had to be organized appropriately. Each and every cell had to perform its duty to be different on the thumbprint than the pinky print. And then the back of your hand is different still. These are all skin cells, and they have different formats. You are so complex and so beautifully and wonderfully made. When you want to interrogate someone else, when you want to come in and destroy someone else, you only ever destroy yourself. When you want to put someone else down, you only ever put yourself down. This is something that I want each and every one of you to understand. Because when you finally get to the place where you're only doing things for yourself, by yourself, because of yourself, you will realize how inflated you made yourself because of your ego. And I know this because I've been there. I felt big, yet I was so small. It is only in understanding and knowing the fullness of yourself. It is only in just leaving everyone else alone, because to you, they do not exist. And when you truly relax within inside of yourself and understand who you are, then all of the systems work functionally, the same way that the seed comes up and creates a plant so beautifully. It just knows what to do. It's the same way that your human works. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to be a part of culture. You don't have to be a part of tradition. Those things keep you stuck. Those things keep you where somebody else figured something else out and it worked for them. And then they got a big loud mouth about it and everyone started listening. That doesn't work for you. It's never worked for you. You've never been good with what the masses do. You've never been good with what the community does. Nobody ever is. They sacrifice pieces of themselves to become wanted and accepted and belonging. These things that move within inside of you don't care about belonging. It was never designed to belong. But everybody's trying to control everybody. And so it's like, oh, well, you need to be a part of something. And you're supposed to feel bad when you're not together with family at Christmas. And you don't call your family, so you're a horrible person. Says who? You can live so peacefully and so happily without people that you understand as family, because they never invested in themselves. They never took the steps to create a great life for themselves. They wanted to follow the books. Maybe it was your children that wanted to follow the books. They didn't want to be a little bit odd like you and follow the intuition. They just wanted to be normal and fit in because they didn't like getting bullied. So they succumbed to the bullies. So who are you? Did you succumb to the bullies to become a bully? Did you bully yourself? Did you squish yourself into such a small little thing inside of you that you have become a product of your environment, a product of a religion, a product of an occult study and a group, whatever weird thing you became a part of that you're super proud of? And it's weird to somebody else, but to you, your manure smells so good because you've been in it for such a long time. There's a truth. It's the way things really are. You've been on an X and Y axis. And the truth is at absolute zero. You're not even on the right scale. You're looking to things that happened before you. They were never meant to be written down and given to you to find out. This is the reason why every 200 years things just go missing. This is why we have mysteries in archaeology and architecture. How did that get made? Oh, we don't know. We're just gonna guess. Your logics will never make sense of something that happened in a different time with different technologies. It's like try and take the phone you're listening to this on and send it back to Egypt. That don't make no sense. It's a different time and a different technology. So be where you are, understand yourself instead of looking to a book to understand yourself, instead of looking to other people to understand yourself. There's so much programming that goes on with this. It's insane. This is why the most intuitive people find other intuitive people. And you just sit there and go, What am I missing? Well, when was the last time you sat out in nature? You look at them like, I don't know. And the intuitive person says, try it. Take off your shoes. And you look at them like, that's just weird. Why would I take off my shoes and sit in nature? And you literally go and do it because you're like, whatever, I paid for it. So you go down and you sit in nature and you put your foot on the ground. And the idea you've been asking for years comes through. And you just know. This is what conversations with me are like. Except for instead of me telling you to go out and sit outside in nature, I invoke deeper parts of your being to communicate with you. Parts that you didn't really understand how to communicate with. I am the example for those other parts that are so far in the dark that you don't even know they exist. Billions of light years away. You exist somewhere. And you don't know how to find it. And you don't even know that it's there because it's like, that doesn't logically make sense. It's happening right now, but how is that possible? Is because it's on a different axis. It's like looking out at the night sky and seeing the fleck. It's there. It's just not reachable. It doesn't do back in time like the books that were written 200 years ago or the monuments that were made 7,000 years ago. That's not where you are. You're out there, not back there. So when you have a conversation with me, you start to think different because your energy tunes to something completely different. Like I said, it's not about going outside and putting your feet on the ground. You can get that from a lot of other people out there that is going to read your energy. I'm actually not even going to read your energy. I'm going to have a conversation with you, and you're going to be surprised at what you speak to me, what comes out. And you're going to start to shift the way that you perceive even yourself. Because I've done it. And I went from being a fully logical, everything has to make sense, 2 + 2 must be 4, but now I understand 2 × 2 can be 1 zillion. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. Well, I understand the different elements of math now. And my brain doesn't try and figure it out, it just knows, and we just work with it. And then later on, sometimes I get the answers. If I want them, which I don't really do that much anymore because then we have magnets to not conform to. Because every level you learn different things, everything changes, the perspective changes, the way you see yourself changes. And then when you have so much information, you start magnetizing yourself to that information. And you have to spend so much time to demagnetize yourself in order to truly embody the new energy and the new parts of who you are. This is why the more logical you are, the more stuck you are, because you literally create magnets within your own field of all of these programs that you believe to be true. Like you believe this plus this equals that, and this plus this equals that, and the grass is always green, and this is always this way. Well, actually the grass can be brown. Depends where you're living in the world, right? Like just these simple little things I can share with you to remind you about how things are so different depending on different elements in different ways. you have to truly understand that you're so much more than all of this. And the more knowledge you have, the further you are away from becoming yourself, because you have magnetized yourself to a belief system that keeps you totally founded and magnetically stuck there. And yes, you can garner some sort of, manifestation powers, and you can garner certain things because magnets do that. But magnets are weak compared to the depth of who you truly are that made you human. Like, that's a fascinating cycle. And the more you twinkle and twitch and do all those weird occult things to other people, you do it to yourself. And then when you do it to yourself, you get rid of the connection to the part of you that created you. It's absolutely, it gets scarier and scarier and scarier as your life goes on, because you are less and less connected. Unless you're doing it the way that I did it, which is not logical. I never read a book. I didn't do those things. I saw stuff here and there, like I did my research on stuff, but I was never heavily into research because my intuition told me not to. But I did see stuff here and there, and those things, those programs got into my mind. So I can only understand what it would be like for someone who is very much into it. Now, I will digress for a second. I did spend a lot of time in religion when I was younger. And so I did know those scriptures very deeply, and they did hold a paradigm for me for quite a long time. That took me a long time to unlearn and demagnetize and so forth. So in that essence, I did spend a lot of time there. But yeah, the best way to find me is on my website, because it's the only way that you can get in contact with me, and that's ENYELAH.com, ENYELAH.com. I only have one option, and it's membership, because you have to be a member in order to have a conversation with me or to have any other services. I am obviously on a different wavelength of life, and it would be only an honor for those who are also on the intuitive journey for me to give you something to kind of calibrate towards, in the essence that you will be able to look at my energy and start to formulate your own pathways in ways that is towards your own being. Because I don't share, but you can see who I am when you are in that phone call or when you are in the paid service. I do not allow anybody else to see anything about me, because it has been a treacherous journey of copycats and a treacherous journey of people using things against me. My greatest gifts of creation and all of these things, the most maleficent and ugliest creatures would copy, paste, and slap me with it. And so I've come to a terms that you will have to be slightly you will have to be fully in your intuition to want to press that membership button. Because when you see what it costs you, you will look and laugh if you are a logical person. If you are an intuitive person, you will be so radically excited because your intuition will sparkle with joy and exuberance that you have found something that will give you what you're really looking for. So the most wonderful and beautiful experience of living is to experience oneself. And so thank you for taking the time to listen to this entire video and experience your own self on deeper levels speaking to you so that you may understand yourself more. Thank you again for spending time on yourself. It is a wonderful gift to everything that exists to be more pure in who you are.